Namaste. Welcome to Satsang today. As always, Satsang is for the experiential realization of truth, not just an intellectual knowing, which is a stage along the way, and certainly not to have faith or trust in what we believe to be true, but to come to a deep and profound experiential realization so that we experience it ourselves. We can verify the truth of any particular teaching, any direct teaching like this, that there is only one being, one substanceless substance. I'm going to call it silence or stillness today. And that silence is appearing as all of this world of phenomena and also not appearing as anything when it remains in its unmanifest state of silence. So it's okay to know about this, but it's better to experience and live and be this consciously because we are this anyway. We're not at all what we think we are. And if we're willing to set aside what we think we are, or willing to question whatever the next thing that comes up for us that we think is true, and actually to question if that's actually so, then our awakening can be a place of spontaneous freedom. We're already free. We just think that we're not. We think we have more work to do before we can become free. But even this idea that we're not free yet and that freedom is in some kind of happening or process instead of actually being what's true for us right now is the idea that we need to question. And most times, most of the questions that I'm asked are really along a very similar line, which is something like, now that I've seen what I really am, now that I've noticed that I'm formless or silence or stillness, awareness, how do I um, stop swinging between that and illusion? How do I stop going back into illusion? And it's true that most of us have this experience of some kind of recognition at some point. I'm not a thing at all, whether it's a spontaneous insight or something we've looked at in our self-inquiry or in our meditation, we just somehow seem to become aware that there is something here that is not a thing. It doesn't fit any of the usual categories. It is that silent space where everything appears inside of it. The more that we see that we're formless, silence, the more then it becomes clearer and more obvious this is the only thing that's true. And we even begin to see that the separate person, the human being that we thought we were, is not really at all what we actually are, that this human beingness is just a way that this formless silence is playing, appearing. And it doesn't invalidate the humanness at all. In fact, it enhances, beautifies it, allows that human being to express itself authentically and completely from that place of recognition of this infinite silence that we are. But there is one or two places where we keep going back to believing that we're not free. And when we first touch into this formless silence, we recognize that this is not a thing at all. We might even notice in that moment that there isn't any work for us to do, that there isn't anywhere for us to get to, that there isn't anything to let go of or to achieve, nothing to be done or undone in that seeing. It's just clear. I am that. This is what I have always been. But then, as was my experience, with most people, there's a thought that pops up a few minutes later that says, how do I keep this seeing? How do I hold on to it? And the other side of that coin, how do I hold on to this? How do I stay in this seeing? And then the other side of that coin is, why do I keep going back into illusion? A two-sided coin of duality. It's because that in that moment of clear seeing of this formless, infinite silence, and we can call it whatever, we could call it Parabrahman, Godhead, awareness, emptiness, nothingness. It really doesn't matter what we call it. It is what we are. In that moment that we see it, we haven't killed the idea inside of us that we are a someone who is seeing it. And therefore, this question arises very shortly after, how do I get back to this? I've lost it. And how do I stay like this? How do I stop going back into illusion? But if we look at what's really happening in that moment, we'll see that we're actually identifying with one final phenomenon. We might have seen that we're not the body. The body is a shape appearing inside of us, equally valuable and beautiful as everything else, every other phenomenon, which is appearances happening like waves arising on the ocean surface, the surface of this infinite formless silence. All these shapes appear, thoughts, emotions, bodies, chairs, houses, buildings, planets, galaxies. Everything from the universe itself to the smallest subatomic particle is just an appearance arising inside of you. And we're quite willing, quite often, to see that. That's not me. It's a way I'm appearing. It's not all I am, this body. In fact, I am many bodies. I am all of these bodies. But this seed idea, this one phenomenon that we keep identifying with, hasn't quite been destroyed enough. So it's just an idea that needs to be destroyed. Or perhaps clearer said, our ability to believe this idea, to buy into it, we have to destroy. And that is this idea that I am going away from the silence back towards illusion. And it feels like that, right? One moment you have a clear seeing, everything is fantastic, how could it ever not be? And then 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 minutes later, there's another problem. I seem to have lost this clear seeing. But the clear seeing, the infinite silence, is watching this play of phenomena, watching itself appear as forgetting and confusion and contraction and thoughts and all of that. If we look at what really happens, if we ask ourselves what we really, really are beyond all form, if we discard temporarily anything that is temporary, anything that is phenomenal, not because it's worthless, it's beautiful, but it's not going to give us any information about who we really are. And if we come to see that the infinite silence is not a phenomenon at all, therefore no phenomena can tell me anything about this infinite silence that we are, then if we can notice that we're still referencing phenomena, I have gone back into illusion is the idea, and I need to come back out again. I want to go back to where I was before, as if I've traveled somewhere, as if this infinite formless silence can change and become something, or even identify with something. This last object that we all identify with is attention, the attention. So if we imagine or even better, directly experience this infinite silence as being this infinite formless no-thingness that we are. It is utterly insubstantial, cannot be found in any particular place. It has no thing to grab a hold of. You can't pick it up. It's not in one place. It's everywhere that it could possibly be. You are everywhere that you could possibly be. There's no boundaries, no edges, no divisibility possible. Just infinite, formless, silent nothingness that goes on forever. It's been here forever. It will always be here. And it is what we are. And somehow, in some moment, the mind gives us that idea, the mind that's appearing inside this vast, infinite, formless, nothingness, silence. Inside of it, somewhere, is a little body and a mind. And in the mind, it says, I've lost that seeing. But if we check this out, what actually has happened is that when attention stops focusing on the form, the body mind, for a moment, it begins to search for what else is here. It opens up and sees this infinite silence that is not a thing. And in that moment, attention is gone. There's no attention. You can prove it to yourself right now, and I'm happy when we open it up for questions to help prove this experientially. If we look for what we really are right now, after all temporary things or phenomenal things have been discarded in that definition, not discarded as in we get rid of them, but just let me not count anything that's moving, changing, becoming, beginning, and ending. What really am I then? And if you really notice, when you recognize this formless silence that you are, there's no person paying attention to it. The person is just non-existent in that moment. There's nobody looking at it. There's just it. There's no person, there's no attention. In that moment of a clear seeing, there's just formless, infinite silence. And there's a recognition. The silence recognizes itself to be formless and infinite, unaffected by any form, any phenomenon at all. There's just the silence. And then at some point inside the silence, a thought forms inside a head that says, how do I keep this? And the attention forms again and zooms back in. The attention zooms into a thought somewhere inside the silence. And attention goes to this thought, and attention really buys this thought. But the silence is still here in its original pristine state. But somehow the silence appearing as a human being has gone back to believing itself to be lost. And then it asks itself, how do I find my way back? How do I go back? But from the perspective of silence, whether attention is on the silence or zoomed into a thought or an experience happening in the body-mind, zoomed out to look at the silence, zoomed in to look at the body-mind and phenomena and a problem that's occurring, zoomed out, zoomed in. The experience for the silence is always the same, always free. We could put it another way to say that even when thought thinks it's not free, still the silence is free already. It could never not be free. The body mind appearing inside the silence can have an experience of illusion. Doesn't mean it's actually affecting the silence. And the mind says, that's all well and good, but how do I stop the body mind having this experience of going back into illusion then? How do I remain as the infinite silence that is always free? And is there any possible way for a teacher to answer that question? What can I say to attention that's looking at a thought to solve an imaginary problem for an imaginary person, a seeker that doesn't really ever exist except as a bunch of thoughts, energies, desires, all of that? And as you're listening to this, I'd urge you not to try to figure it out. Just listen, just listening, right? Not working hard with this. And now, talking to the infinite silence that you are, I'm going to ask you, have you ever gone into illusion? Have you ever fallen into illusion? Have you ever not been infinite silence? You could take the shape, appear as a person that is lost in its own mind. You can even take the shape of a person who believes it's finally found infinite silence, but you're still watching as infinite silence, totally unaffected by whatever the seeming person is doing, all the stages the person seems to go through. I am this body. Oh, wait, I'm not this body. I'm not any phenomenon at all. I am the infinite silence. And then finally, the last thought is there's nothing other than infinite silence. All that is a thought journey happening in a head somewhere inside you, the infinite silence. But somehow we have this love affair still with the attention. Attention moves back to a form and we say, I moved, I went, I'm lost. Even if attention zooms back into a particular body and mind, still the body and mind doesn't have to feel bad. You can still feel peaceful, joyful, even with attention zoomed in. As long as you don't believe that that's you, you are the space, the infinite silent space, the knowingness itself, the field of pure consciousness that could never be anything else. Silent, aware consciousness. So the next time this thought pops up in your head, this is all well and good what Helen is saying, but how do I use this? What do I do with this? How do I use this to solve my problems? Even my most amazing problem of how do I stop going back into illusion? Now that I've seen who I am, how do I stop going back into illusion? Really, clarity and illusion are just two states that the body mind experience in alternating times. I know who I am, I've forgotten again. I've got it, I've lost it. What's happening for you, the silence, the stillness, the infinite, formless nothingness? Have you ever changed? Has any of this seekingness and findingness and then losingness and then finding and then losing, has any of that that's happening inside you affect you? What if you're so free that you're watching a shape that's appeared inside you go through these experiences and somehow got fascinated with it, thinking, wow, that's me. I'm doing that. That's me. Everything that's happening to that shape is happening to me. It's like the room that you're sitting in, feeling that it's affected by the furniture in the room. If we took all the furniture out, put it back in, put even more furniture in, rearranged it all, turned it all upside down, what's happened to the room itself? So this last phenomenon of attention and identifying as the movement of attention, zooming in to look at a phenomenon, zooming out to look at you, silence, zooming in, zooming out. This identification with it, this is me, I'm moving. Now I see who I am. Now I've lost it again. Now I see who I am, clear seeing, everything's right with the world. I've lost it again. What if you just doubt for a moment that any of that is to do with you? Could you ask yourself this question? What if I'm watching even this and completely unaffected by it? These two alternating states, one feels really good, one feels really bad. And I know it's convincing. I remember feeling, imagining that I was stuck there for a very long time. But in the end, I had to admit that nothing had actually happened to me. I am as I always was. I am already this. I haven't become this. I haven't finally stabilized in this. I haven't embodied this. I had to admit the truth, which I'm inviting you to also, which is there is only this. All the shapes that you're playing with, attention, a person, a body, mind, are just that, just shapes. The most important question I ever really asked myself after this burning question of what am I and where am I? The next most important question that became my only spiritual tool after a while was, is this really my problem? Is there anything to do with me? If my body mind feels bad in any way at all, it's a clear sign that I do think it's something to do with me. Somehow I've gone back to feeling I am a movement. I am got to get back to that which is what I already am. What if this became your most important question? Is this actually anything that is my business? Do I have to even solve this problem? When we're watching the body mind fluctuate in these two states of clarity and confusion, joy and despair, around and around and around it goes, it really seems to be your problem. Really does. And of course, we would like the body to feel better, to feel peaceful, to feel content, to feel joy. Of course, we want that. We're not saying that we're just going to watch this cycle spin around forever. But in the admitting of the truth that I am as I always was, that all of this awakening journey, in fact, has been going on inside a head somewhere, inside of me. In fact, inside many heads inside of me. Somehow the body mind is no longer agitated because we're no longer believing anything that isn't true. So, what is it gonna take to stabilize as this? Well, to let go of this idea that you can even stabilize or destabilize. We can check it out again now. Awareness, presence, silence. Is it changing? Is it identifying? Is it free right now? Could it ever not be free? Somewhere in the mind, there's a person who feels very unemployed at this point, and they've got nothing to fix there, nothing to move towards or away from. And all of its reference points are taken away in this kind of admitting of the truth. And this person keeps looking for employment, keeps looking for work. But any and all problems that you could possibly have spiritually are really due to this one idea that any phenomenon at all can affect you, can impact you, or is you. Paradoxically, when we let go of always trying to feel peaceful, we always feel peaceful. When we let go of always trying to free ourselves, we realize we've always been free and could never not be. So there's an invitation here in what I'm saying, not to try to work with this, but just to evoke inside, just to welcome this that you're hearing and to ask yourself, where is this already true? Rather than me moving towards some idea of truth, rather than me going off in some direction, because I think I can go off in some direction, rather than going to work with this, where is it inside me where I'm already free, even when the body and mind feel terrible, contracted, mental, emotional, or physical pain? Actually, as the formless silence, all you can do is listen, see, know, watch, be aware. There isn't really anything else that you're capable of. What if you were to just listen and watch the next time this idea arises that you have to free yourself because you've gone back into illusion again? What if you were to just watch that idea arise, exist, and then disappear? And don't pick it up as something you have to work with. Yes, the body and mind might feel bad, but is that enough proof that you've gone back into illusion? The longest time for me, it was. It was enough proof until I started to doubt even this. I remember, I couldn't tell you the day and the time, but I remember watching this thought arise for the last time. The body was feeling so contracted and tight and awful, and the mind was screaming, "You've lost it again." There's this raging intensity to try to get back to, such desire to try to get back to that place. In that moment, this idea just arose, what if I just let this pass? What if I don't scratch this itch? And it vanished. All of it vanished. In about 10 seconds, all of it vanished. There was peace in the body, the mind was quiet, and I realized that it's only my insistence that there's something I can do, and that I'm the one getting lost and getting found again, that kept this whole circus of thoughts going and emotions and all of it. Really, we see this the very first time that we experience who we really are. It's formless, it's not changing, it is as it always was. It cannot even identify with the body or disidentify. It's not even capable. Who you are is not even capable of that. So that's probably about as direct as I think I can say it. Um, until next time. And I hope it's inspired you to doubt something inside, to doubt this thought when it arises, that you have lost it. You found it, doubt that too, and doubt this thought that says you lost it. I lost it. Doubt the thought that says I have to stabilize in it, I have to become it, I have to dissolve into it, and replace it with the thought that I am it already. I am it. If I already am it, does any of this reply? If I already am the infinite silence, does any of this apply to me? And this thought is like this question is like a magic wand that will sweep away the whole of everything that you're struggling with. The sword of real discernment, destroying the capacity to believe that you can believe. I'll stop there, otherwise I'll go on for 2 or 3 hours and get rather passionate about this. And I would invite if there are any questions or challenges about this or anything that you're experiencing in your awakening. If you'd like to ask a question, please feel free to raise your hand here on Zoom. Timo? Hi.
Um, um, that was fast. I wasn't really prepared. Um, okay, do you hear me?
I do, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Um, yeah, I've yeah, been doing self-inquiry and I have doubts. I think less than a few months ago maybe, but there's still is doubt, and the doubt there's actually two issues with doubt, or two. The first doubt is when I go into self-inquiry or in meditation, um, and I concentrate on stillness or silence or awareness. If after all, if it's not just fantasy, there's just a lingering doubt that maybe, just maybe, that's all my fantasy.
Shall we have a look and see if it's fantasy or not?
Yeah,
Let's see. Let's look at awareness now then. Let's notice, is awareness present right now?
yeah.
How do you know? Are you imagining? Are you dreaming? Or are you clearly seeing? Is there something inside of you that knows awareness is here?
Actually, I don't. Actually, I don't know. I don't even know what awareness is, but it's like the only thing that actually, I mean, there has to be something. Can't even put it into words, but since I experience this, there has to be something.
Hmm. What is it that is recognizing this conversation, hearing these words? There's something that's intelligent and noticing, right? Whatever we call that.
Yeah,
And when you notice that that thing that's intelligent is here and listening, and we've just called it I, we've always called it me or I, and we're just coming to investigate it a bit more now. When you notice that, doubt says you're making it up, right? The doubt says you're imagining it, you're not really noticing it. But let's just look and see, is that true? Are you making this up? Is this a memory or a fantasy or a imagining, or is it a knowing that something that I've just called myself or I is intelligent and aware and watching?
I'm not actually sure what fantasy is now that I think about it, but it can't be a thought, because a thought is inside of whatever that is.
Yeah. And can an imagining, can a dream or an imagining recognize this awareness, this whatever it is? Can anything appearing inside it recognize it?
No, shame, no.
Nothing at all appearing inside this, whatever this is, can recognize it, right? That's profound. No phenomenon at all can recognize what you really are. So are you making this up? Is it just, are you pretending here, or is there some actual profound seeing happening here?
I don't know. That makes me laugh. But yeah,
The laughter is a good enough answer. It's totally, yeah.
but still, I mean, what if this was a dream?
Is this a dream? Are you asleep right now or are you awake?
I am awake, but if this were a dream and you would ask me this, wouldn't I also say I'm awake?
If there was a dream, if you were asleep and dreaming, for example, would that be a phenomenon or something? Or that in which it's being noticed? Well, let
Yeah.
me phrase it differently, might be easier. It might be an easier way to, whatever this is that you are, I'm just going to call it awareness just for sake of a word. It doesn't matter what we call it. This awareness that you are, can it fall asleep? Does it have to go to bed at night and wake up in the morning?
Mm,
Does
no,
awareness say, it's 10 o'clock, I'm really tired now, I have to go to bed?
no,
The body might say that, but does awareness sleep?
yeah, no, but I wonder how I know actually.
That's a really good question. How do you know awareness doesn't sleep? Let's just play with this for a few minutes if you want to carry on. I'm having a lot of fun. I don't know about you.
Yeah, yeah, that's yeah. Feels kind of strangely dangerous.
Yeah, the mind will be freaking out right now, going, just stop, stop, don't go any further.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it's also because, you know, we're doing it in public,
But
so
you're,
everything
you're
is
asking
clear.
these questions
But
for everyone. You're doing everyone an enormous favor here. And I'm really grateful for your courage to do this. Can you recognize this that you are using the body and mind, any part of the body and mind? It's a big question, but let's just explore. You don't need to have the right answer or anything. It's just nice to explore.
what's the question? Sorry. How do I recognize it?
Yeah, yeah. How do you know this whatever it is, awareness, how do you know it's here?
That's actually, yeah.
Are you using your senses, your eyes and your ears to
No,
recognize it? Can you see it or hear it? No.
no, it's almost like it's the other way around. But I'm not sure what that means, but it's like not, it's not me recognizing it is there, but whatever that is knows I'm here.
Mhm.
Or maybe it's
Let's not
confusing, but it's confusing to say. It's actually not so confusing to
to actually experience it's very simple.
yeah.
Yeah. But to speak about it sometimes it might be challenging. Could it be that it knows itself, that what we have called I is something much bigger. It's recognizing itself.
Yeah.
Now you're really smiling.
Yeah, because it actually feels good.
Yeah.
And yeah,
If you are recognizing this, you must be this. You told me quite truthfully, which I absolutely love, that no phenomenon Nothing appearing inside it can recognize it. That leaves us only with it. It must be recognizing itself. Must be. That which sees itself finally instead of seeing phenomena. That which knows itself finally.
Yeah, yeah. There's still a point of confusion, and I think that's the second doubt.
Hmm.
I when I try to find myself, like the separate self or the sense of me, I don't find it. But I also, first of all, I wouldn't know how this would look. That's strange. But then I always have the feeling, okay, I didn't find it, but only because I didn't find it doesn't mean it's not there. It's like the feeling there's a center of perception. Maybe and now that we're doing it, actually there is no center. It's like, or there is a center that is me,
Mm-mm.
um, but that's only imagination. Maybe I'm not sure. There's like a center and there is no center.
So there's this that you are that has no center. It's just here and it's everywhere. And then when it appears as a human body and seems to look through that body, there seems to be a center,
Yeah,
right? There seems to be, I'm looking at you and you're looking at me, and there's two of us here having a conversation. But it's enough that that will always seem to be like that while the body is here. There'll always seem to be a place, a location, a center, right? But it's enough to recognize again and again that there isn't actually a person I can find living in this body. All I find is a body, some thoughts, some emotions. Every time I look, I can't find someone living in it. I find only this bigger version of I. Every time I look, and I must have looked 100,000 times. And every time I looked, I still do it every day now just because it's fun. Every time I looked, I couldn't find a person. I had to finally admit it. It's not just hiding when I look for it, right?
are you sure you've looked
I'm just going to
everywhere?
hide behind this wall, and then when Helen stops self-inquiring, I'll come back, you know?
That's the feeling. Because when I look for the center, I can find it. But the moment I stop looking for the center, I'm looking like out of the center or something like that.
What if the center is just a feeling? It's a feeling of someone generated by thoughts going on in the head and emotions going on and perceiving through the senses. What if that is what we've actually called this me that we thought we were? It's a bunch of sense perceptions and thoughts and all of that, right? And it still seems to have a central location. But as you see that that's not what's actually true, then this doesn't bother us so much. We're not trying to get rid of it. We realize it's just a sensation, actually. The person is a sensation rather than an actual thing, rather than an object.
So, so I don't, or do I have to dissolve like the center? Is it something that when I keep looking at it, will it vanish or will it always be there? And I just,
It will always seem to be there. There'll always seem to be a person. Right now, for me, there seems to be someone here talking. But I've just seen that many times that it's not actually true. It's gone at nighttime in deep sleep. It's gone in meditation. It's gone every time I'm unconscious the body's unconscious for any reason. There's no sense of anything then. There's no thought. It's all gone. So it's enough to see that it's just a sense and that you can never actually find this legendary person that's trying to do all this problem solving, right? All we find every time we look is this uh, centerless thing, nothingness that we really are. And it's appearing as a human being. It's taking the shape of a human being. And we can really enjoy that when we realize it's not all only what we are. As we start to see that clearer, the fear begins to fall away. What does what does this centerless I have to do? What problems does it have?
Just there.
Already there, already free, has always been. Is it just there now because we're noticing it? It's like, oh, they're going to do self-inquiry. Quick, let's run and present, Let's come back and be present. Or is it always there?
It's just it's just always there. It's just like the space
Hmm.
things are happening in.
But it's
But
never
is
gonna
that
shout
is
for attention, right? It's only when it becomes so disillusioned with imagining itself to be only this localized center that it actually starts to think, well, let me see what is this the totality of all that I am? It starts to look at itself and recognize itself.
but then is that like is that what I perceive or the room or the space or that which is there? Is that what I am and the body and the sensations in it as much as the table
Everything.
and everything is me?
How big is this centerless I? How big is it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm tempted to say several meters in diameter, but probably I mean I couldn't say where it ends, but then again I don't comprise the whole universe, so it's like it's fading out in the
This I that doesn't comprise the whole universe, is this the centerless I, or are you talking back again as a center?
yeah, it's probably the center, yeah, something, yeah.
So just to notice this that has no center, and just to be curious about it, where does it end? Where does it stop? And just to get really curious about that. And is there anything outside of it, separate to it? Is there anything other than it? Or is everything appearing inside it? Just to really be curious like this, to explore it. It's fun, right? It's not hard work, it's fun. For you at least. For the mind, it might be a little, oh, let's not do that.
Yeah, yeah, because there's actually nothing is outside of it. That's
So if this is what you are, is there anything outside of you?
no, but
Anything
that,
separate to you?
that feels strange for the mind. There's
Yeah.
no outside. I mean, because it feels like inside, but when there's no outside,
There is no inside either. If there's no outside,
yeah,
right? There's just this, just this.
that that's kind of it feels spacious and dangerous and fascinating at the same time. That's
So the fascination is the real self that you are recognizing itself, like, wow, this is what I really am. And the danger is like the mind is saying, this is too big, man. Let's just drop this and go back to our problems. Let's find some work to do that we can, let's make a problem so that we can keep believing that we're not free. But something has caught a glimpse, right? It's caught a glimpse of itself. And now it's just like, I want to know what that is. I'm fascinated with that. I want to explore it and play with it and see what I really am. What does it mean to be this? What does that mean for my life, for my awakening? Everything, you know? There's a little bomb that's going off, and it's going off a bit more every second, and it's just going to keep kind of exploding in our thoughts, right? Like, what does that actually mean?
a little like falling right now.
Yeah. And it's just enough to enjoy that fascination and just to delight in exploring this that you are. We've done a lot of exploring what we thought we were, this small center. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course, but it's a little too small now. It's like trying to put on a shoe that's too small, right? It just doesn't fit anymore. So now it wants to explore what it really is. What is that? Just to be curious. Which is all self-inquiry really is. We just spent some time being curious as to what's really true. Have fun with it, right? Yeah. Wonderful. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Don. Can you hear us, Don? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear.
Wonderful.
Um, I I wasn't able to go to the Spain. I was signed up to go. My dad fell, and he ended up passing
Hmm.
a couple weeks ago. And yeah, he had some moments of clarity and decided he wanted to go to hospice, and he didn't want to go home. He didn't want my mom to have to take care of him, and he told me all that, and I guess he and I were closer in that all those moments around then than he and I had ever been, or
Hmm.
certainly for years and years and years. And he chose me to talk to him and tell me what he wanted to do and that he wanted to go to hospice. And one night he said if I could kill myself without involving anyone else, I would. And he was in quite a bit of pain and couldn't do the rehab.
Yeah.
And but, that was a fairly dramatic and all the illusion of separation came up for my brother and my mom. He became very, angry at my mom and me, and I want to, do the best thing I can, for the situation. I have some fear of, quite a bit of fear of violence from my brother, and his separation, and at the same time, I my desire is to be, stay in unconditional love and stay, able to be.
Yeah.
So I just thought, what if you had any thoughts coming up around that was obvious to you of what I'm saying? But it was a very precious experience to be that close to him, and I had a lot of grief, you know, underneath. I cried a lot.
Yeah. It sounds to me like you've done the best thing you could, that you did the best that you could already, that you have used that time as wisely as you could. I was lucky enough to be able to spend a lot of time with my dad right before he passed, and he was, as you said, he was more open in those moments than any other time I'd known him. And it was a special time that I will always cherish. And mind might look back afterwards and say, well, you should have done this or you could have done that. But can you recognize that within you that's already done whatever it could, use that experience and was there for him and was even able to see whatever was going on in everyone else around you in that moment is just some sense of separation. And of course, they would be really agitated in that moment if they thought they were a separate being and losing someone. Of course, they would be, right? And I don't really feel there's anything that you could have done differently. I think you handled it as well as you could.
Yeah, in that I think I did. It's now the living and the my brother's vicious anger about me, and he feels very entitled. I mean, I've read quite a bit. I would say he's in sociopath territory.
Yeah.
And I want to stay being, and I understand now why he has those feelings toward me, and or the separation of me and my mom, and why he needs to dominate her because he lost his protector.
It helps if you can remember. I'm not suggesting for a second that you tell them this, but it helps to remember that everyone is really only suffering from one thing, and that is the sense of separation. No matter
Yes.
what the mind says, the mind will say he's angry at you. But the fact is, he's only ever angry because he feels limited and separate. That's the
Yeah.
bottom line with everything. So if we can do our best to remember that, um, and to pull away as best we can from any stories that say different to that. Like he's angry at me because of this thing, or he's doing that because of that thing. Then there's more of a capacity to stay in your authentic nature in that moment, which is the best way to help him and of course yourself and your mom.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Yeah, it was very precious to be in that space. I know what you're saying. It was interesting where he dropped a lot of his, or had to, I guess, in that moment.
yeah,
Um,
there's an
to become
opportunity in those moments, isn't there, that most of us don't experience any other time.
right,
Yeah.
right, and it was there, and quite precious.
Yeah. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you got to be there with him. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to Harpreet.
Hi, Helen. Can you hear me?
I can, love. Thank you.
Hi. Um, yeah, I just thought I'd share a bit of what's happening with me because I think there's a bit of confusion. So, as I've mentioned before, I've got all this energetic stuff in the body, which in the last couple of weeks has got even more intense. I noticed a heaviness. It feels like a descent of energies as well as an upward rising. So I just noticed that I feel my weight in my feet more. I feel exhausted going up the stairs. So just a real heaviness in the body that I've never felt before. And then
Which body is yours? Which one are you talking about?
this physical body. Yeah. So and when I kind of like sit and go deep and close my eyes, I can let go of the image of the body, and then it just feels like an energetic field as well. And I notice when I'm doing the contemplation of this apathy and this stuckness, I noticed it started to feel like a bit robotic, like on autopilot, because I was feeling so much energetic stuff. And at times I would even forget what the question is. And then it more felt like, do I just lean into all this intensity and this feeling, which I think the Tantra approach is more like just leaning into it and feeling it. But the deeper I go, I notice the stronger the resistance, the stronger the holding, especially in the lower abdomen at the back. There just seems to be like this, I don't know how to describe it, but a ball of energetic holding. And then I thought, is that resistance because of the beliefs, or is it just a fear of death? Because that's another thing I notice is like I can't sleep at night at the moment. It's so intense. And I feel at times that something just wants to break open, and then I have to shuffle around or get up to get a drink of water because I get scared, because I just think it's like a fear of death, but I think it's a primal sort of, I think it's below belief, whatever it is. It's that exit, can't say the word, but it's that core
Existential fear.
yes, it's that as well, and I think mixed in with belief as well, because the voice that keeps coming up is that I'm stuck, and I'm depressed. That's another voice. And when I questioned, that's when it became like automatic. And then in my body, it just feels like one of those, in America, they have the rodeo on
Mhm.
those wild horses. I just feel like I'm being, well, something inside is just squirming. It's just being flung this way, that way. And it's just like and distractions, not that I'm using that many distractions, but before I could distract and the energy will calm down. But now
No, it
even
doesn't work. None of
or
it works. Yeah.
it doesn't work. Nothing works. I've just got to the point where it's just so uncomfortable. And then I was wondering, do I just let that go in, that there's nothing that I as a separate self can do about this, almost go into that feeling of powerlessness and helplessness. But then there's resistance there to feeling that as well. So I'm just a bit muddled and a bit confused by it all.
Can you notice? And I'm going to give you an answer that doesn't, what the mind won't like it because it'll say the mind will say that this isn't going to answer your question, but it will answer deeper than the question, right? So that we can begin to move away from this situation, right? Begin to resolve it. Can you notice that there's a deep sense that you cannot live free until this is all sorted out with the body?
Yeah. Yes.
And it really feels very convincing that until all of this is sorted out, I cannot experience freedom. So, what we're saying, in effect, I've been right there where you are. I understand how real it really is and feels. But if we're coming at some situation we have in our life um, from this idea that I'm not already free, I'm not free until, I
Mm.
can't be free until, then we're putting conditions upon that freedom. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
And I know as I'm saying this, the mind might be shouting, well, of course I cannot feel peace, love, and joy while this is going on. Of course I can't. But what if we approach this from the understanding that you are already that which is not affected by any of this? What if we approach this from the um, knowing that you are already free? Nothing could cause you to be bound. It seems that you're bound or limited by this experience. What if all of this is only a reflection of this idea that you are not already free? The mind says, yeah, but if I don't sort all of this out, it's never going to go away. But what if you can't sort it out? What if it's a mirror image? What's happening? The body is telling you in as many ways as it can that you don't think you're free yet. You don't think you are the awareness yet. That thought is still being held on to. I've seen it perhaps, but I can't live as that because this needs to be resolved first. And again, it isn't going to be popular to the mind, this answer, because the mind wants to solve the problem first and then live free.
Mm.
But it has to. It has never worked that way around. It only ever works by, let me come to this problem from the place of being already free and see what happens then. The body and mind are simply reflecting back to you an extreme sense of limitation from a feeling that I am limited, right? I'm a limited being, is the belief, and something else is affecting me. What's going on in the body is affecting me. But if we really look, we can see that nothing is affecting you. And of course, we would like to have the body feeling better, of course we would. And we'd like to you be able to sleep and all of that. But how much has it actually worked to try to fix this problem? All the things that you've tried, has any of it worked permanently?
No.
So it's worth trying this then, right? What if I stand resolutely in my knowingness that I am free, even while the body hurts, even while it doesn't sleep, even while there's fear, even while whatever happens. I had to do this as well. Everything was blowing up in my life. It was literally everything around me was blowing up. And it was so tempting to buy this idea that I wasn't there yet because of what was going on. My mind said, well, you wouldn't feel this way, you wouldn't be experiencing these problems if you were already free. But I had to stand firm. I had to make a decision to stand firm. I had to pitch my tent on the mountain of freedom, right? To plant a flag and say, no, nothing, no matter what happens in phenomena, is going to dissuade me from this knowing. I am already the self. And only from there can everything else turn around. The thing is, that this sense of limitation is just so usual and normal for us that we don't even notice we're feeling it. This sense that something is affecting us and something is stopping us from being free. Is we've lived with it for millennia in different bodies. So it's just so taken to heart as true. But now we have to really, really question even this.
So when I have like said to myself, I'm already the infinite self, even with all this turbulence, I notice like it feels like a dot, the stillness and silence. But I think that's how the mind's seeing it, as a dot, like the eye in the storm. So when you say to take my stand as that, you're not just saying to have the belief that I am free. Are you saying also to constantly sense into
Yeah.
that stillness and
Much as you can, you
yeah.
recognize again and again and again what you really are. You notice, as we were talking about Timo, that it's not affected by whatever's going on in the body and mind. That you are that it is already that you are already free as often as you can, all day if you can. I mean, obviously you can't all day, but checking and seeing and seeing and seeing and seeing. And then the other side of that is, then the mind says, yeah, but you need to do something about this. You need to fix this. You have to do something about this. Are you gonna subscribe to the idea that you can do anything about this? What if we admit the truth, which is that you are not doing anything, as formless silence, as we're calling it, or awareness? The mind doesn't want to admit that because he says, well, I'm never going to feel any better then. But, when everything else has failed, we turn to this.
Yeah,
And it's the only thing that works.
I feel I've got to that point where
You're out of options.
yeah, and then the mind and the mind obviously wants relief, on the physical level because it feels so. I feel like I'm squeezed into something like a really tight.
I get that totally. And this eye that can be squeezed, is it what you really are? Are you only inside the body? Can you be squashed, compressed, squeezed?
No.
So you have to stand firm in that. That has to be more important to you than anything else, right? Meaning, whatever the mind suggests, I'm going to do my best not to compromise in what I've seen to be true. I'm not going to let this feeling of being contracted override what I've just seen to be true. Yes, there's a feeling of being contracted, but it's a feeling. Can I be contracted? And I'm going to stand as if my life depends on it. I'm going to stand firm. I will not be moved. There's some kind of resoluteness, right? Some determination. And we have that in abundance. And if there's any reason for suffering at all, any purpose, it is to bring us to this point where we say nothing in my life is going to bring me away from this knowing. I know what happens when I compromise what I know to be true, when I agree that I'm limited. I know exactly what happens. This eye of the storm, yeah, the storm stops in that moment because you're finally not holding anything false. But usually, what we do then is we buy the next idea that the mind suggests to us. But if we examine these ideas, I'm being crushed by this. I'm limited by this. I can't get beyond this. I can't do anything about this. All these ideas, do they apply to who you really are? I just have to try harder. I have to find something else. I just haven't looked enough. Maybe this will go away if these are all very tempting, right? And we buy them every time from the mind, we buy them.
Yeah, because the other thing that was coming up is, oh, it's repressed emotions. You need to feel this anger. And I can't make myself feel something unless it
You are
comes up.
not even, let's examine who you really are. Are you even choosing to feel or not feel? As you stand as this, that you really are, there is no way to bypass anything, actually. The whole sense of separation is a bypass of reality. But the emotions will be there, the energies will be there inside you, but finally, inside the body rather, but finally you're not using them to reference anything about you.
Right.
There is nothing in phenomena, good, bad, horrible, magical, wonderful, terrible, that can tell you anything about you and how you're doing in your awakening.
So
It has to
anything that,
become paramount. That's like, I'm going to camp out here for as long as it takes. I'm not going to move, right?
and then
Come
if
wind
anything,
or shine or rain, I'm going to examine what the mind gives me and see if it's true for who I really am. Thought by thought, the mind will give you all of its tempting thoughts and doubts. You examine them, you see it's not true for me, you discard it.
and anything that needs to be released will happen just naturally then, rather than with
It's
someone.
only there because it's a reflecting. The body has to feel limited while you agree that you're limited. The body cannot feel unlimited and free until you admit that you're unlimited and free. The body is a mirror image, right, of what we're holding on to, what thought we're holding on to. All of this, only all of it. And I'm not saying there won't be energy moving up and down the central channels, but it won't be an issue at all. It will just be happening by itself then.
Okay. Thank you.
We all reach that point where our back's against the wall and there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, exactly.
And we come to this last, strangely enough, I don't know why, we all come to this last. We try everything else first. We try the one thing that actually is true, the last of all, because we're so busy trying to fix the problem. Then we realize the problem is just a mirror image reflection of what we're holding on to inside. If I believe I can lose this seeing, I'll keep experiencing losing it, getting it, losing it.
Mm.
I can believe that I'm limited. I'll experience limitation in every which way life can give it to me. I'll feel limited in my body. I won't have enough finances. I won't have enough time. I won't have enough energy. Limitation after limitation. So powerful are you that whatever idea you look through, you immediately experience as your whole life, right? Your whole experience is colored with this idea. Only when we look through that from that place where there are no ideas, does the body then finally reflect that sense of openness and lightness. That's the eye of the storm that
Mm.
you said, but it's just a momentary experience usually because we go back to some old thought.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. So we'll just take one more because we're almost out of time. We'll go to Marie Sylvie, sorry.
Hi,
Hi there.
Helen.
Hi.
I'm following up from the last inquiry we had, and it was about suffering. I was crushed by the suffering I saw in the world, and there's a huge shift that happened in the session and after. And now where I'm at, and maybe I do have the answer, maybe you said it in this satsang, but it's just a clarification.
Mhm.
What I'm left with now is still a huge compassion.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't come from, it's not crushing anymore,
Mhm.
but it's still very much there, and I feel it in my heart. There's
Is
space.
it compassion or is it desire?
I don't know, you know, but I don't know, I can see the apparent suffering around me. And, in my family, my sister is going through something very difficult with her son, and he's schizophrenic, and it's very hard. And I'm attending to it in the best way I can. There is space, though.
What is that best way? Let's look at what that best way is. That might be really useful to look at, right?
Um,
What's the best way for you to attend to this?
it's almost, you talk about the resolve a minute ago. So there's a resolve to keep seeing the truth as
Hmm.
listening,
Yeah.
as all those circumstances are. I'm hearing it. There's action to be taken. I have skills to be able to help to a certain degree. But the difference, what I'm playing with is I still feel a lot of compassion, like I'm concerned, and yet I'm kind of not concerned at the same time. It is new.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's serious. I can see it's serious, and I don't discount it.
Yeah.
But I do feel a lot of compassion, and the heart space is, and even in a physical body, is very activated.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a desire. I'm doing something to support in a way, kind of
Yeah.
giving.
The body will do whatever it can do, right? And do
Yeah.
it very effectively.
The suffering that I used to experience, even for me, myself, my own suffering is, I can't find it. I'm waiting. I'm curious. I said, I may come back next day. So I'm very, oh, uh,
Let me know if it does.
okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking for it. Oh, kind of. And then I see that apparent suffering for sure. I can really feel the pain when we believe we are separate.
Hmm.
Believe so long, so long, how distorted everything is, and how we can act from that distortion. I can see that, and that's where my compassion is.
Yeah.
So is it a desire?
Can you look at something that you don't like and not have a desire for what you do want arise? Is it possible to look at this situation that you're talking about and to not have a desire arise in the heart for something different? Right? There's going to be something that arises immediately in all of us, whatever we're looking at that we don't want or we would rather be different. And from the place of freedom, from the infinite awareness, we can hold both of those. We can know that nothing is really actually going wrong, right? And that suffering is apparent. We can hold that, not hold it because it sounds like an efforting, but we can live from that place and simultaneously allow this intense desire to arise in the heart for what we do want, how we would like. We're accepting the manifestation as it is right now. It doesn't mean we like it. We're not going to argue with it energetically. Suffering is when I argue against what is, argue with it. And simultaneously, then, as well as we're accepting it, we can also hold this desire until it manifests of what we would like it to be like. With the deep knowing from the place of freedom that there is nothing that could stop that from occurring. This desire is how the movement of manifestation wants to move anyway. It's not a desire of a person that has to go make it happen. That I'm feeling this compassion and this desire because this is where life is trying to go anyway. And it needs a body mind that will feel it in its fullness and question any of these senses separation or reasons why it won't happen, why we feel it won't happen. So when we get to that point, it's a perfect place. The mind can't really understand it, right? It says, well, you have to pick one. You either have to want it to be different or you accept what it is now. But we can do both those here.
That's so helpful. I can feel the relief.
Yeah.
Right.
And from that place, there's going to be a lot of desire arising. This, I would like this to be different and that to be different and this, and life is constantly stimulating these desires, right? So that we can um, see that this is where life wants to go. It wants to always move towards, in manifestation, towards more love, more joy, more peace, self-acceptance for everyone. And finally, we arrive at the point where we're not looking at how it is right now and pushing it away. Finally, that's been the only missing thing. The desire's been there, the compassion's been there. Finally, we can just be with how it is right now in its awfulness, in its messiness, it's in its whatever it looks like.
And since the last inquiry, it's very available now to see the love, no matter how it shows up. And it's definitely not the mind. The mind would argue with that,
Yeah.
but there's something deeper. But what you just gave me, there's always there was kind of something I didn't know what to do with,
Mhm.
and it's just like, oh, it's not a doing, but how to look at it really.
Yeah.
And there was a kind of no struggle, and now I can see. And I can trust then also that desire, which is not personal. That's the difference.
It's
Okay.
the universe desiring, right? It's the totality of life desiring. What could possibly stop that when we're willing to feel it?
Yeah. And
Oh,
that makes a whole difference because I don't know, I guess I was suspecting that the personal I was taking was reincarnating again, in that situation. And when I
you
can
can you
just
can feel it, right? This desire is coming from somewhere much deeper. And it's in all of our hearts. It's why what draws us to awakening in the first place. Let me put my own oxygen mask on first, and then I can help other people, right? That's kind of what we're doing here. Let me make sure I'm in the lifeboat first, and then I can help others get in. If I drown, then there's nothing I can do to help anyone else.
And then it's not the I who has to do it with my shoulders having to carry it.
Yeah.
It's just, I can sense that habit, but it's it's so relaxing when I just surrender to life is using me and can then support the desire. Like I can, it's not imagination as a person, it's deeper than imagine. It's almost like a flow. I'm
Hmm.
just letting the flow of life through me. So the desire, it's not a personal,
Yeah.
it's it's not heavy now.
It's happening for me all the time. I go to the supermarket, I see someone that doesn't have enough money. There's a desire there for them to have enough. And it just is felt. I see someone without a home living on the streets, there's a desire there comes up. You're asking me this question, there's a desire for you to really understand what I'm saying, but it's just allowed to come. There's a desire when anyone's trying to recognize and we're doing an inquiry, for example, a desire arises then. It's constant, whatever I'm experiencing, there's this desire arising. And I know that if I simply feel that in its fullness, something amazing happens every single time. And because it's not a person that wants that, it's life itself saying, this is how it is right now, but where can we go with this consciously? And that's a very different thing. And maybe we could even say that's what we spend our time doing as it becomes clearer who we are. Our body moves around places and we just experience things we don't like or want so that we can turn towards what we do want. And that's an extraordinarily powerful thing when you recognize who you really are. There's nothing in the universe that could stop your desire from manifesting.
As if you gave me a permission that I don't fully understand. Like if I won the lottery.
Manifestation, the world, it is desire, right? Even a plant has a simple desire to turn towards the light. It will always turn towards the light. That's what we're all doing. We're just embracing that consciously because we're not scared to want something anymore because we're not believing I can't get it, it's not going to happen, I don't deserve it. or it's too difficult. You know, we might have looked at a situation like you're describing for your family. Before we'd have looked at that as a separate being, and I would really love it to be different, but there's nothing I can do about it. Like I can't fix it. But when that I that wants it is seen for what it really, really is, it gives me goosebumps, you know?
It changed the whole thing. And so it's almost like now that was a holding, and now I can just be myself.
Yeah.
Like feel it all. It doesn't matter. Like I can feel what the call is and just follow it from that place. It's so free.
You get to watch and enjoy as it unfolds in manifestation, and you're not surprised ever, but you're delighted every single time. And what shows up in manifestation is always at least 10 times better than what we wanted. 10 times, usually 100, sometimes even more than that. You know, you desire for this person to stop suffering, and you find that within a year they're in satsang with you. You're like, how did that happen? All I wanted was to feel better, you know? Life is trying to give in such abundant ways, but it's been limited as it's trying to push through these ideas of separation. Um, and most of all, we're afraid to feel what we want.
It's almost like the way love shows up in this lifetime. It's from this whole presence, but it's almost like, ah, that's how it shows up. And
Moment
then,
by moment, like this, right? This is love in action. This is it.
mhm, mm, cute.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for your wonderful input. I'm sorry we didn't get time to get to everyone, but I hope you'll agree that what we've shared here today has been so profound, such bravery and courage and willingness to let go of even the most convincing ideas. And I couldn't ask for more than that. And my wish would be that you see yourself as I can see you, um, and that you really go for freedom. I'm going to say believe in it, but not to believe that it's possible, but just to demand it. And then what comes from there? There's nothing that can stop you. So, sending all of my love. Thank you so much. Namaste.